Hello and welcome back. It's been a while. A lot of things are going on. I've been trying to keep my finger on the pulse of some of the things that are going on out here. So I want to talk today about a couple of items, and I will leave them, the links to these articles in the description below this video. But DHS just came out with a post about to start prepping to be ready for 6 months of power outage. Now, this is the second kind of thing that the DHS has came out with. I was trying to find the other one. I've got to look and see. I've got it somewhere, I'm pretty sure. But the thing is that when the government is starting to tell you to be prepared for something for this long, because remember, the government's standard line is 3 days worth of supplies. So what has changed that now they're telling everyone to be ready for 6 months? And if the power goes out, the cascading and the secondary and tertiary and even beyond that, problems that's going to occur with a power outage of that length of time is going to be huge. So the first thing we need to think about is this. First off, is not something to be scared of. Do we need to be concerned? Do we need to be cognizant of what's going on? Yes. Do we need to be ready for what's this potential? Yes. But being afraid is not going to do you any good. It's not going to do anybody any good. So the thing that we need to worry about, or the thing we need to focus on, not worry about, focus on, is being ready for such a situation that if this occurs, or when this occurs. The fact that we're being told, and that it appears that the government has changed their stance on the duration of what we need to be ready for, makes me think that there's something out there that we need to really be concerned about, or we need to be cognizant about. Everybody, if you've watched my show, if you've been on my Facebook page, if you've been, seen anything that I've talked about, my theme is the core of calm, and that's not just something that I pulled out of my fourth point of contact and threw out there to stick on the wall and see if it sticks. But I honestly and truly believe that we need to remain calm. We need to be ready. And again, that's the reason why I'm not too fond of this prepping stuff, because prepping is often in response to a fear, which, if that's what gets you ready, then I'm all for it. But what I'm more concerned with is you being mentally and physically and spiritually ready, not just having a bunch of stuff stored in a warehouse and, rest and say you're prepared, because that's not being prepared. Being prepared is a whole process. It's a cycle. And it's something, I don't know that you can ever be completely prepared or even completely ready. Now, I'll tell you straight up, I don't have, 10 years worth of food. I don't even have a year's worth of food. But I'm still ready, because I know that I will make it through because of what I'm doing in here. The things that I've gone through, the things that I've been through. Some folks who've known me for most of my life, or at least when I was younger, probably have some doubts about that. But I'm a simple country boy, and I don't try to focus on the negative side of things. In one of my classes, I teach a class dealing with change, how to deal with change, what change is. Change is by itself neutral. It's neither good nor bad, positive or negative. Change is change, okay? So even when something occurs, it's a change, but it's not positive or negative. It's not good or bad, because change is what it is. The perception that we apply to it, the emotion that we apply to it, is what makes it good or bad, positive or negative. So power goes off. It's going to be off for an extended period of time, 6 months, a year, whatever. That is not a good or bad thing. It's a change. It is what it is. Okay. In some of these Facebook groups that I belong to, that I kind of keep my finger on the pulse to see what's going on. I've seen a lot of folks that are worried. I see a lot of fear, and I don't want that. That's not, I don't think, why we're here. I think we are here to learn how to work together, how to be reliant on God, on Source, whatever you call him. Because when we are ready, it doesn't matter what's going on around us. I mean, chaos can be rampant around us. But when we secure ourselves in the one who created everything, who knows how the story ends before the story began, we don't have to worry about what's going on right now, because what's going on right now, it's temporary. Whether we live 80, 90, 100, 400 years, it doesn't matter. It's still only temporary. It's something that does have a finite length of time. It's the time after that we really have to focus on. And I think that's what a lot of this stuff is for. Well, I won't say for, but I think that's a lot of what we can learn from this, is how to view something, view a situation, a circumstance, whether it's, immigrants at the border, earthquakes, tsunamis, the power going out for extended periods of time. Whatever it is, then if we approach this as whatever the event is neutral, not positive, not negative, not good or bad, then we are able to deal with the circumstances in which we find ourselves. Is it scary? Yeah, it could be. I like electronics. If it weren't for electronics, I wouldn't be able to talk to you right now. If it wasn't for electronics, I wouldn't have Facebook. I wouldn't have my games that I like to play. I wouldn't be able to do my computer stuff, my geospatial stuff, at least not in the manner in which I do now. Back in my day, we did do it without a computer. So there's a lot of things that we've come to depend on, and I've done other blogs and other articles about, the power system or the power grid, which I'll also put links to underneath this video. I'm probably going to start posting the videos on my website as well. I haven't been doing that, but I do want to start doing that, because I want to help folks to be ready, be calm, be focused, be centered, grounded, whatever you want to call it, however you want to call it. I don't care. The word itself that it is immaterial. It's the feeling, it's the understanding that it is not it's not the end of the end. Okay. I have a lot of friends who are, in this prepper world with, which I find myself. Um, I've met a lot of new friends on, some of the groups and things that I belong to. But whatever the event, whatever the situation, it's not going to, even if it's the end of the world type of a scenario where stuff hits the fan, yes, it's going to impact us. Yes, it's going to be scary, potentially. It's going to be chaotic. There's going to be calamity. There's going to be probably death. But that is not the focus of what we need to, that's not what we need to focus on. What we need to focus on is to continue to live, continue to do what we are here to do and what we are here to learn. I don't believe that we are meant to be dependent on, our government, on other people. I believe that we're all supposed to carry our own load. That's our responsibility. Taking care of myself and my family is my responsibility and my wife's responsibility. That's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. Same for all of you. If you have a family, at least you're responsible for yourself. At the most, you're responsible for your family, your wife, your children, your husband, grandparents, parents, whatever. That is our responsibility. Now, the problem is, I think we've delegated a lot of that tasks to other people, to the government, to different organizations. But the responsibility is still ours. As a commander in the military, I can delegate tasks to other people, to my soldiers. But the responsibility is still mine. So it doesn't matter if, something doesn't get accomplished. I, told somebody to do something and it didn't happen. Yeah, they'll probably get in trouble. But ultimately, the responsibility comes back to me because I'm the one that was in charge. You are in charge of yourself. You are in charge of your family, especially if you're a father or a mother. Those are your responsibilities. So those are the things that we need to worry about. And those are the things that we need to focus our attention on, not on the event itself. That's change is neither good nor bad. It's neutral. So if something happens, such as this blackout for 6 months, the one in 2003, I believe, lasted for like 10 days or something to that effect, or 30 days, whatever it was. I forget. I wasn't part of that one. So, but I mean, I've been without power for long periods of time, so it doesn't matter. What are some of the things that you can anticipate that you will have to handle in this time? First and foremost, there will be riots. There will be looting. It inevitably is going to happen. So avoid going to these locations. Avoid going to stores and things. If you have a blackout, the probable best course of action is going to be to stay put. Okay. I know there's others that talk about being mobile and stuff, and yes, that may be something that you have to do. You may have to vacate where you're at. But initially, when this thing happens, stand fast wherever you are. Okay. Now, some of the things to do before this type of an event, you're going to want, as with all emergencies, food, water, Okay. Water, we can only store so much. I mean, unless you own a warehouse or unless you are, rich, which I am obviously not, um, there's only so much stuff that you can have in stored up. Okay. And right now I'm living in an apartment with my wife. So we don't have a lot of room. I mean, even if I used one whole room just to store stuff in, I don't know how many months, weeks, years I store food for. I don't think I could do it indefinite. So there are things that I'm going to have to do, but focus on getting enough supplies for, as they say, 6 months. I don't know that this will happen tomorrow, so I don't know that you have to go out and purchase 6 months worth of supplies tomorrow. If you're like me and most of the folks that I know, you probably couldn't afford to buy 6 months. So do it in increments. And I'm pretty sure people are probably getting tired of hearing this, but I'm telling you, if you do not have a written plan, then you may overlook something. You may forget something. Having a plan allows you to logically and methodically begin the process of being ready. Okay. So in state, we'll focus on this one just for case in point. In state is we want to have 6 months worth of supplies to last how many ever people are in our group. Okay, so let's focus on a family of 4. That's a typical, I think, family in the United States now. So you're going to need enough supplies for 4 people for 6 months. Okay, so you can figure it out how much you eat. We typically eat now only a couple of times a day. We have 2 meals and then we kind of snack in between. So figure that. And there's so many variables. I can't tell you how much that's going to be because everybody eats different amounts, eats different types. So when you start to plan, determine how much of what resources that you're going to need, how much food you're going to need, how much water you're going to need, and whatever else you need, things to do like games or whatever, flashlights, that kind of stuff. Sit down and figure out what all these resources are that you're going to need. And this is a list you just sit down and start figuring out. In the plan, you evaluate where you are now. Okay, so first thing you do an inventory. What do you have on hand in your pantry, in your closet, wherever, right now? What supplies do you have? What tools do you have? What equipment do you have? What weapons do you have? What ammunition do you have? Whatever, everything that you believe that you're going to need. Find out an inventory what you have right now. Okay, whatever the difference between those two numbers are is the stuff that you need to start to focus on. Okay, so let's just say average person or average family, I would imagine probably has 2 to 3 weeks worth of food already in their freezer, in their refrigerator, in their shelves, whatever. Unless you live like I said before, in Germany or some other European country where they buy food on the way home from work every day and only buy enough for that one day. Typical American family has probably 2 to 3 weeks worth of supplies already on a shelf somewhere in their house. Okay, so we have, let's say, 3 weeks. So now we need to get from 3 weeks to 6 months. All right, so we're missing like 6 months, let's say, is 24 weeks. So we need about 21 more weeks worth of food. how do we get there? So the way to get there without breaking your budget and, going in millions into debt, when you go to the store, if you buy 1 can of green beans, buy 2. Okay. If you buy, 1 box of cereal, buy 2, whatever. But purchase, each time that you go, something additional. And it doesn't have to be like your entire grocery list. You don't buy 2 of everything that you have on your grocery list. But pick up a few items every time that you go to the store, and slowly you will get to the point where you have this 6 months worth of food. Now, the thing about that is you're buying food that you normally eat anyway. So now what you do is you start to rotate the food that you've already purchased, and you replace it with the ones that you have just bought. Okay? Rotating. So we rotate what we've already bought so that when something does happen, you're not using something that's, 6 months, a year, 10 years old. Okay? But it's also to keep your system adjusted to the food that you're purchasing. People buy this dehydrated or freeze-dried foods. That's terrific. But you also now need to be using that stuff so that when something happens and you're actually eating this stuff, A, you like whatever it is that you've purchased, but B, your body has already adjusted to this different type of food, okay? So whatever it is, buy it a little bit at a time and make sure that you cycle it through so that it's not, like sea rats that are 500 years old. You eat it as you rotate it through, okay? Water is going to be tricky, especially if you live in the city or if you have city-type water if you're in the country. My recommendation, if you can afford it and your place allows it and does it, have a well put in. The well, should it be accessible through like the actual hole that you drill for it, by hand, okay, or by wind power, something other than electricity. Even if you live in the country and you have a well, you want to be able to access that water without the use of electricity. Now, it is possible that you can put this point in time off where you will have to access it without using electricity by purchasing, generators, and you can get whole home generators. I think most of them, like Lowe's and Home Depot and those places, have generators that can be purchased for, I don't know, around 3,000 to 5,000. Whole system put in for maybe 10. I don't know. I only know 1 or 2 places that I've done, but I know about 10 grand is about the typical price to get the big LPG tank, and to get the house wired and everything for electricity. So that's going to push the bubble to the right, as in regards to not having electricity. Now, in the instance with a complete power grid failure, if you have electrical power, and people can see it, then there's a chance that folks are going to try to come and get it. Okay, so you need to ensure in a grid down system that you assume a guard position, meaning somebody should be awake at all times, keeping an eye on what's going on. Just like we did in the military, we would have 40 hours of guard duty pretty much every time we were in the field. So, but that's going to be important, because in a grid down situation, even though it may not be permanent, even if it's only 6 months, it is still going to be considered the end of the world as we know it for that period of time. It's still going to be a stuff has hit the fan scenario, especially for at least that period of time. So basically what that means is the civilized veneer that we currently operate under, meaning most folks typically do not, what's the word I'm looking for? They follow the kind of the set of rules that we have at the present, the laws, whatever you want to call them. But in a grid down situation, that's going to go away. Just the same as if this was the end of the world as we know it, and it's never coming back. Okay. So you're going to have to assume basically an armed camp kind of mentality, kind of like, our ancestors did back in the old West days. Every camp was basically an armed camp. So you're going to have to take precautions. Does that mean that we're, going to have to be completely barbarians? No. But again, the world has changed as we know it. So we're going to have to kind of change ourselves in order to be able to deal with this. Having guards 24/7 is just going to be a way of life. Be bopping down the road listening to music on our MP3 players or cell phones, because I'm not sure MP3 players are around anymore, but that may not happen. That may be something that's part of the past for a while. So we need to be able to focus on doing the things that are going to keep us safe. Another way for the water is to, locate now, before something happens, where there are streams, where there are lakes and rivers, where there are sources of water that you can get. One of the skills that you're going to want to have to learn is how to purify water. Okay. Again, there are things that we can get now. There's Berkey systems that, you can get the big one. I think it does like something like 5,000, 10,000 gallons worth of water before the filter's bad. And you can purchase additional filters. So those will work. But again, depending on how long this thing goes, this situation lasts, they may eventually run out. And it's not like you're going to be able to run to the store or log onto the internet and order one from your, Berkey dealer. So learn how to create your own water filters. In a book that a friend of mine wrote, Determined to Survive, A Mother-Daughter Journey by Eve Gonzalez, we talk about in that book how to purify water and alternatives to the chlorine. Chlorine is one way of treating water, which is part of the reason why our municipalities use it, although I think there's too much of it. But there are alternatives to chlorine that are just as effective, that will purify it just as well and render it safe. So, bleach may be the easiest solution, but, how much of that do you want to drink? Now, if you have a well, you might want to do the same thing. Even though the water may be okay now, you don't know what's going to happen. So you still want to purify whatever water source that you get. And you need to figure out how to do that with the materials that you can get on your own. In the purification system that we were talking about, there's a couple. There's a solar still, which uses the sun, if we have sun. And the other one is using charcoal, which you'll be able to get from your fire. Because obviously, in a grid down system, there probably won't be electric or gas heat. So you're going to have to build a fire to cook food, to stay warm and stuff. So you can get the charcoal from there, identify or find and locate sources of sand, gravel, and like grass or moss or some other substance that will allow you to filter sediments and stuff that are contaminants inside of the water itself. So, but these are things that you can get from wherever you are, okay? So food and water, that's the most important. Shelter is obviously going to be where you are. Now, if you are in a location and this thing goes on for longer than 6 months, you're going to probably have to find a place in which you can grow your own food, okay? That means that if you live in town, especially if you're in an apartment such as I am right now, you're going to have to find some place outside of town in which you can protect yourself and then be able to grow your own food. So this is the time. This is part of the stuff that goes into this planning. That's why there are facts that we gather when we do a plan to identify what's in the area and what's around us, and then do what I call a site selection in which you locate ahead of time potential places that will enable you to continue to live even though the circumstances are not the most desirable. Okay, so yeah, so there's something that I was thinking that I wanted to talk about. Oh, the other thing I want to talk about, and it deals with the mental aspect, because I've seen a lot of comments about people saying, oh, I'm old, or I'm disabled, or I'm sick, I've got illnesses, whatever, I'm just going to probably die. Well, if that's your attitude, then yes, you probably will die. But that doesn't mean that you have to, because it's all what you desire. It's all what's in here. If you set your mind that you're going to live and that you're going to be able to contribute to what's going on around you and to the group that's around you, then you will. You'll be able to become part of the group and be a productive person, a member of that group. The other thing is, speaking of groups, you're going to want to identify before the event people that you can trust, people that you can depend on to be a part of their group, or they to be part of your group, that you all work together as a collective. Now, for me, this is kind of a foreign concept because I've always been a loner my whole life. But when I wrote the book, Return to Life, it dawned on me that that's not going to be practical. Because as we said, you're going to want to have guards. Even if you only have 2 people, one person needs to be on watch and one person needs to be asleep. So, is our life going to change? Yes. Is it going to be changed for the good or for the better or for the worse? That's totally up to you, because it's your perception of that change that makes it going to be better or makes it going to be worse. So, I try not to keep these, or I try to keep these videos short because I don't want people to fall asleep on me and hurt themselves when they fall and hit the computer. But the mental attitude, the mental mindset that you establish is what you're going to do. And like I said, if you believe that you're just going to die, then you will die. There's nothing anybody's going to be able to do because you're going to make it happen. But if you set your mind to being ready and being part of the solution, then that's what you're going to be as well. So don't give up. In the military, they used to say, lay down your life for a friend. Well, I might lose my life, and it might be because of I'm trying to save a buddy of mine. But I'm not going to lay it down. They're going to have to take it. Okay? And if I lose my life, then so be it. That's what's going to happen. But I'm not just going to quit and say, okay, I'm done. I'm not wired that way, and I will never be wired that way. So you have the choice. You can wire yourself to lay down and die, or you can wire yourself to, hey, I'm going to make it. So if you have challenges, if you have diabetes, if you have whatever, now's the time to figure out solutions to that. And there are solutions. There are natural alternatives. I've had, my wife does alternative medicine. I know a lot of other people who are, into the alternative medicines. I know a lot of people who have allergies, who have diabetes, who are treating it and keeping it under control using natural remedies, whatever you want to call them. So just because you have some kind of a condition, an additional challenge, doesn't mean that it's game over. Okay? Now is the time to figure out what those alternatives are and help get on the right track. All right. So I appreciate you stopping by. I hope that you enjoy this and find something useful in it. I would ask that you subscribe to my channel, check out my Facebook page, Great Living Sources. I also have GL Sky, which has got most of my books and stuff. But I also have, website, which is www.greatlivingsources.com. Remember, living is important, not just existing and eking out an existence. We want you to live. And live means that you are content and happy with what you are and the circumstances in which you are. So remember the core of calm. If you need to get in touch with me, my email is guy@greatlivingsources.com. And you can go to the contact page on our website. But you can also contact me through this YouTube channel. Whatever you do, I implore that you create a plan and logically and methodically think this through now before the chaos comes. And based on the things that I see, based on some of the reports that are coming out from the government, it would appear that something is in the wind. What exactly that might be, it's all conjecture at this point. But the fact that it might happen, disasters happen all the time. So it doesn't have to be the end of the world that you're getting ready for. But you do need to be ready, mentally, spiritually, and physically ready. Thank you. Bye.